drummer and then makes no difference what group I'm in. I am everyday people. Yeah.
We're back with Lieutenant Tim Troxel of Upper Moreland Police Department. Going to do a little bit of after show. If you weren't a police officer, what would you be?
Wow.
Dream job, whatever you want.
Dream job.
Yeah, roadie for Aerosmith, whatever you want.
I probably would be a helicopter pilot.
Okay.
That's actually what I wanted to do in the military, and I had a recruiter that told me that's what I could do. As it turns out, it wasn't.
A recruiter lied to
yeah, it's unbelievable, right?
Oh,
a recruiter
God.
lied. And miraculously, he was like, oh, well, even though you can't do that, you're already an EMT, so why don't you become a medic? We need medics. And that's how I ended up being a medic, actually. But and I don't have any regrets. I between active duty and the reserves, I did 10 years in the Army, and I got to see and do a bunch of great things and meet a bunch of great people and learn a bunch of awesome skills that'll serve me for my whole life. So I definitely don't regret being a combat medic in the Army for 1 second, but still never got to do that pilot thing. So
it started with him saying, "Sure, you can fly the president's helicopter. Just
yeah.
Sign right here, kid. Yeah, you'll fly the president to the moon on his space helicopter." With the changes in law enforcement, all the things you've seen, if you had a magic wand or a blank check to cut down on suffering or whatever you want to call it, or increase efficiency, what would you do?
Man, I would really like to, if it was unlimited money potential, I would love to take anybody that wanted to and maybe even force some people that didn't through some sort of not the full police academy, but some sort of basic training that they understood a little bit of what we have to go through and what we do, and then bring them out there and let them kind of do the walk a mile in our shoes thing and see what it's really like. Because I think as much as it's important for officers, and I preach this to my guys, you got to understand every single person's different. Everybody's got issues, treat everybody with kindness and respect. And I really think that having an understanding of one another in this day and age with how negative things seem to escalate to very quickly anymore between the police and the public, I think that would go a long way towards improving those relations and kind of righting the ship, so to speak. And I guess if I had unlimited money, I would try to make sure that happened on both sides. If there was some sort of
you'd have the
magic pill you could, something to enhance understanding a little bit between both parties and truly work towards making sure everybody understood and got along a little better because of it.
It's a shame because I think that we have, because of our ability to pull up anything on our phones, I think we have this illusion that we're more knowledgeable, and I think we think that knowledge is education is wisdom, and it isn't. Wisdom takes time, and
yes.
I think we want, like you were talking before about training and what you know as you go along. Well, training and certifications are just the foundation for all that stuff that you learn. It's not in any book anywhere, and you can't train for experience. You can't just it has to come when it comes, and you have to make your mistakes. You have to burn your finger on the stove, as a child, to know not to go near the stove. It's different than somebody telling you not to touch the stove. You have to make all those mistakes. And I tell people all the time, anything you see me doing it looks like I've got the wisdom of Solomon. I messed up, and thank God there were camera phones,
Exactly. And especially in the world we work in, it's you learn by doing and you learn by making mistakes. Nobody usually typically figures it out without screwing it up. The best advances a lot of people make a lot of the time is based on screwing something up and figuring out that there's either a better way to do it or a more correct way to do it so that it works for you.
And there's definitely there's an inherent joy in having somebody who is a know-it-all or something, going to do something a better way, and in a controlled, safe environment, watching him go, no, watch this. I know exactly what's going to happen to him, I like doing that with rope rescue. When somebody ends up hanging upside down like a piñata because they were going to do something different. And it's like, and you're holding up a card and you flip over, hanging upside down like a piñata, because that's exactly what's going to happen. Because people think they read something or they watch YouTube videos and now I'm a YouTube expert and I can do it. And in reality, it's a lot different than YouTube.
Yeah, it definitely is. And sometimes you almost wish you could just let them. Sometimes you do. It's like having kids, being a lieutenant in the police department, it's like I've got 40 children. And sometimes, as long as it's not going to be dangerous or something that's going to be detrimental to the officer or anybody else, sometimes, just like with your kids, you got to be like, they're like, nope, I'm going to do it this way. And you kind of just have to be like, okay, go ahead. Let me know how that works out for you. I'll be standing over here.
I had one of my people do something and she said to me, if you knew what was going to happen, why didn't you warn me? And I said, you wouldn't have listened.
Exactly.
You wouldn't have listened. I said, but you'll listen now. Because a lot of it turns into, and it's not a gender thing, it's just an ego thing or a pride thing. A lot of it turns into like telling, a teenage girl, you're not going to date that Troxel boy. I mean, that's writing you a blank check because that's the first thing, you can't do that. It's going to be opposite. You've got to train people. You've got to raise your children. You've got to hope they do the right things and make sure that they know you're there for, if they make a mistake, to come to counsel them and maybe gloat a little, Well, and the great thing is once they have that realization,
a lot of times, even just once, then the next time something important or something along those lines comes up, they'll either come consult with you first or, again, they'll have that takeaway that they remembered, okay, this is how it works, or they'll either get, you might even be there and you kind of almost just get that sideways glance like, am I doing this right? And because they figure it out. So, and that's kind of cool too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to see somebody that you were part of training other people and doing it right. And I've never been a big one for going out and clapping or cheering or whatever, but I'll kind of go out and look. And if I don't point at anything or complain or whatever, they know they've done, that's like a hug.
Exactly.
My not yelling is a hug. There. Now everybody knows it. Do you have like a go-to funny story about your job?
I do. I'll try to make it quick because I know we're on a time limit. But
no.
we actually got a call. We got a call one night for screaming from a backyard. Is how the call came in. It's like 3:00 in the morning. We work 12-hour shifts on patrol, so it's 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. is this shift. So almost right in the middle of the shift, a little past halfway through the shift. And it's in a quiet residential neighborhood. So initially you're thinking, I got some sort of problem going on here. So myself and another officer start heading that way. And while we're still en route, it comes out. It's like, all right, it's not screaming. They're pretty sure it's an animal and it might be stuck in their pool. So we get there and we go walking back. And actually, the other officer who was there with me, he does a great impression of the deer. I can't make the noise and it would sound awful on radio and I'm not even going to try. But it was a fawn and it was making some god-awful noise. I mean, we got out of the car on the street in front of the house and you could hear it. And it was in the backyard of the house. So the pool is an above ground pool, but it's on the yard is actually on an angle. So it's dropping away. So part of the pool sticks up out literally physically off of the ground higher than the other part, which is almost level with the ground on the hill.
Okay.
And there's a deck around the level part of the pool. So we go back. You can hear Mom rustling around in the weeds and the woods to the off of the backyard of the house. So she's there waiting. I don't know how long it had been in the pool, but I'm assuming on the level part of the ground, this fawn wandered up and didn't notice it or whatever and fell in. So it's now literally doing a doggy paddle, for lack of a better word. I don't know how deer swim, but it's motoring around this circular pool swimming, which now we're concerned it's going to get tired and it's going to end up going under and drowning. So here the two of us are running around the pool trying to figure out what we're going to do with it. And every time we get close to it, it just turns and starts swimming the other way.
Because none of this is in any book.
Right. Yeah. They don't teach that at the police. They don't teach deer in the pool at the police academy. Maybe I should offer that up as a class. Yeah. So finally I get the bright idea. I say to my partner in crime, I go, look, I'm going to lay down on the deck on the shallow side that's close to the ground. I'm going to get on my belly, and because the deer was pretty much staying right around the outside edge of the pool, just going in circles. So I said, when I do, I want you to go over to the deer and just kind of keep walking along, forcing it towards me. And then when it gets to me, I'm going to grab it. I'm going to pull it out. So I'm laying there, and he starts walking the deer around, and it does what we think. It's coming around the edge of the pool, and it's coming up to me, and it gets to where I'm at. And I kind of, it's swimming, it's thrashing around. It's moving pretty fast. And I know I've got one shot at this. So I reach under, and I get right in under the belly, between the legs. Between the front and back legs. And I'm thinking I got one shot at this. Well, I'm not even thinking, number one, it's a little tiny fawn. I don't even know how to estimate the weight. Number two, things are a little more weightless when they're in water.
Right.
There isn't the resistance. So I was in pretty good shape back then, and I heaved with all I had, and man, it looked like Santa's reindeer. This thing went flying through the air. It was like a loud bleat, and all of a sudden, and again, the other officer that was there, when it's hilarious to hear and watch him tell the story, because he goes, I'm just standing there, and suddenly me and the parents and the kids, like, they're all lined up outside the pool, and everybody's literally just standing with their heads cocked straight up in the air as this deer is like 8 feet high, flying through the air away from the pool. So it hits and crash lands and jumps up and kind of stands there for a second stunned and shakes it off, and then off it went into the, hopefully it lived a nice merry life, because no thank you or anything, but off it went. So we did save that young deer's life, and maybe that should be in a manual someplace. I don't know.
Well, have you ever heard the story from This American Life with the police officer's first day in the house with the squirrel?
No.
It's a great story. Homeowners call, and they've got, the police are available 24/7, so they can call for anything.
Oh, yeah.
And there's something in the house, and it's rustling around, and I'm going to massacre the story, but they get there, and they say they think it's a squirrel, and police officer says, we'll look for it, and we're looking around, and he says, it's a squirrel. And so they come up with a plan, just like, I'll lay on the deck or whatever. And so what happens is they did something. There was some series of events where they were trying to swat the squirrel and hit the homeowner, and the homeowner's nose got broke. And that was like midway through it. And then what happened was the squirrel had went under something. They were trying to see under with a cigarette lighter. The squirrel caught on fire.
Oh, jeez.
It ran under the sofa. The sofa caught on fire. The two police officers grabbed the sofa, threw it through the bay window onto the lawn so the house didn't catch on fire. And everything was okay. And the homeowner said, I'm not angry, but I just can't find it in myself to thank you. He said, I know everything you did was out of the best of intentions, but my sofa's burning on my lawn.
And moral of the story is, next time a squirrel gets in that guy's house, he's not going to call the police, which is okay with us.
Yeah, just open the door and sit in another room. But it's amazing, and people don't think about all those things. And I think part of the burden that's come down on the police and emergency services in general is that there's so much stuff that is not the actual job. In your instance, that's life safety, public safety, property safety, law enforcement. That's what, 40%?
Yeah, even more. And the funny thing, I shouldn't say funny. It's because it certainly usually isn't funny when you're in the middle of it happening to you. But you get that call, and it's not like we're not going to go.
Right.
So people will call for anything and everything, and now you've got to show up, and whether it's a bat in the house or whether it's, my